From actors to icons and everything in between. You're having lunch with Bruce Bozzi on Table for Two.
Hey everyone, it's Bruce Bozzi. Thank you for joining me on Table for Two. Today we're back in sunny Southern California for another great lunch at the Tower Bar.
Get over. Are we recording?
Yep.
Now?
Yeah.
Don't just kiss me full on the lips.
I'm so excited for today's guest. He grew up kind of down the street in Cypress, California, and is one of the nicest guys in Hollywood. He's been on huge TV shows, acted on Broadway, and even is an occasional beach boy. Now he's written a book about his life called If You Would Have Told Me. And if that's not enough, he also has a great head of hair. What are you in the mood for?
Food-wise?
Yeah, are you eating?
Yeah.
Should you eat with that body?
Yeah. Beet salad's good, huh?
So pull up a chair, grab a bite to eat, because we're having lunch with John Stamos. I'm Bruce Bozzi, and this is my podcast, Table for Two. So if you've pulled up a chair today, we're sitting at the Tower Bar. I have two surprises for John today, just so you know. One based on your book.
Really? Okay.
And one based on our experience together. And when we left the West Hollywood Palm, all the pictures were taken down.
Right.
We gave them to our
But
guests.
by the way, one of the great honors to have my picture up in the Palm.
Oh, thank you.
And I used to just take people in there,
Right.
and they knew what seat my picture was under, so they'd always seat me there, and I'd be like, "Oh, well, look at this! What is a picture of me up there?"
So when we left, we gave them out. I framed them as art, and you said, you hold on to mine. And what I did was, when we opened the Beverly Hills, there was very few. We didn't put them back up.
Right.
So we put like Farrah Fawcett and Lee Majors up. They had one up.
Andy
And
Cohen
we
had
put Andy
one.
Cohen, and we
Frank
put
Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra with. We put Valerie Harper with Sammy Davis Jr. We put.
I don't
I don't
think
know
there
if
was
we
that
had
many.
Don. No, there was like only 5.
I was tripped.
This was yours.
Wow, that's so
you guys can't see it if you're pulling up a chair, but it's framed. It's cut from like you actually see the wall that it was on.
Are you sure that's not Scott Baio? Because just kidding.
No, it is not. This is for you, my friend.
Thank you.
For you to
I
take
thought
home.
I thought it got lost and.
No, it was hung in my house all these
it was?
years. Yeah, we got to see it. Now he's taking art off my wall.
So, I opened the book. You asked me why now, and if Jamie Lee Curtis, you know
Sure.
her, right? She's a good friend. She always says, "If not now, when?" Which always makes me think about doing things that you want to do, right?
Right.
I never thought about writing a book. It was the last thing on my mind. I never thought I could. Do you ever think about writing a book? It's like
It's funny you should say that. That was like someone approached, like, would you be interested? I mean, I don't know how to do that. I couldn't. And
I think your life is just as interesting as mine, if not
Not,
more.
no,
But you
not.
for sure have a book in you. Everybody does,
Right.
but you have a good one. But it was the hardest thing I've ever done, pretty much. But as you can see in the book, like I never put obstacles up in front of things that I wanted to get done. I didn't want to do this until I did it, but I just did it. I never thought it was I can't, So I just started, and at first I kept saying no, and then it was a dad, and then Bob died, and they saw an obituary that I wrote in the LA Times about Bob, and
I saw
felt that it was good writing, and I was so broken up. I don't even remember writing it, but apparently it was good, and the most beautiful. I'll talk about Bob a lot probably today, and I'll probably cry at least twice. But his Kelly, his widow, and I hate to say that, called me the other day crying, and she said, "You did such justice to Bob, and the people that don't know Bob and they read this book, it's a great representation of who he was, because he was a complicated man, but he was beautiful guy."
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I'll do that. And so I thought I'm going to start with the 2 hardest chapters. The first chapter is when I was on my way to meet Bob at the Palm, that fateful night when I got a DUI, easily the lowest point of my life ever. I could have killed somebody, Bruce. I was fucking.
Yeah, that's very. It's really vivid in that opening chapter. It really is.
And I was circling that area. I must have passed. I just kept going in circles. I was like, "There's the same place again." Anyway, I was going to meet Bob. So, and my 5 stages of grief then was, I got, it's DUI. I ended up in the hospital because I was so fucked up. And when I straightened up and they got me out of there, I went home and drank another bottle of wine. That's all. So my 5 stages of grief was more booze, sex, everything bad.
Right.
Then I tackled the last chapter, which I didn't know if it was going to be the last chapter. I didn't know where any of these would go. About the day I found out about Bob when he died. And pretty much in detail. And that 5 stages of grief then were health, sobriety, therapy, my family, my wife. Yeah, meditation, yeah. So then I had to feel like, okay, how did I get from A to Z?
Yeah.
And then the other big part was my mom's letters, the notes from my mother. I knew I had them, but I gathered them all up from my sister and my sisters in my attic, and I just kind of laid them out. I said, okay, here's a road thing.
Isn't that interesting?
I bet you could do it. You just sit down and do. I asked so many friends that were writing books, how do you do it? So I block out a time. At first I was doing, I do like a vomit chapter. And at first I was like, I'm going to write a hero story, how great I am. I was like, nah, this is bullshit. Yeah. I have to write a human story. What's the point? And then I got into it maybe the last 4 or 5 months of doing it. Especially when I knew a deadline was coming up. My friends would say, you're pretty relaxed for having a deadline. I'm like, yeah, well, oh shit. And I just started standing up on it.
But there's a certain, your ability to write, would you just, when you sat down at your desk, were you focused in on so now I'm going to talk about the audition process for General Hospital. Hence, John's next gift. You might want to explain what this is. It's a yellow bandana.
And thank you. I'm going to tie it. I feel like the first time I remembered this story and told this story was on last time we had lunch. I don't remember. I was when I auditioned for General Hospital. I know you, and you know who loves Blackie at General Hospital was your boy Andy.
Yes.
Colin, he talks about it.
We all love. Who didn't love Blackie?
I don't know.
I was watching Blackie, Jackie Templeton.
That's right.
I was GH. I had the ABC lineup, baby. GH.
Were you in New York?
And I was in New York, and then post GH, you had Lori's Lachlan, who was on. Why is it?
Yeah, Edge of
Night. 30. That was the 30-minute one. That wrapped up the day.
All right. So it was 3 to 4, and then 4
all my kids, One Life, GH.
Did you and Andy used to call each other and say?
We didn't know each other then.
Oh, really?
No.
I know people were rearranged. I didn't know about the pop. I hope that comes across how naive I was through most of it.
It really does.
I think my naivete helped me in the long run. But so I was when I was auditioning for General Hospital, it was for a street punk, Black Parish.
Yeah.
Street urchin. I was like, what's that? I went to the library and looked up street urchin, and I'd never been to New York.
Southern California.
Yeah, I had sun into my hair.
Right.
And I was like, what's New York to me? And I knew, so this other guy was auditioning, Brian Robbins, who was from New York, who ends up now being the head of Paramount, right?
Right. It's crazy.
But he was very New York. He was like, yo, I'm like, oh shit, I need to. And I loved Travolta then, and I still do, obviously.
Right, me too.
And the first set I ever stepped foot on was the set of Grease at my father, his friend was a coach there. Mm-hmm. But I was mainly looking at Saturday Night Fever at that time because he had this walk, and I'm saying you,
100% right.
And I was, I need a walk.
Yep.
So I went and I drove around up here. It was before the audition, and I was driving around these streets. And again, I'm like so naive. I'm just 18, but I'm 14.
Right.
And I find a street over there, Santa Monica Boulevard, and I thought, this looks kind of New York. And look at that, there's a place called Rage. I got to get my rage up for this guy. So I try to park there. I'm a terrible parker. And I needed like a leather jacket. My mom had this, sort of like this big puffy, long, it's a leather jacket, fuck it. And I walk out, and I'm working on my walk up and down Santa Monica Boulevard. For those folks at home, playing at home, it's Boys Town, right?
Yeah,
it's
Boys Town.
And there's a lot of bars, and everybody's outside, and I'm walking. It's like, well, there's a lot of men around. In fact, it's all okay, good. And somebody who, woo, get it, girl. I'm like, girl, okay, I'll take the compliment. And I'm literally working on my walk, and I look like a fucking weirdo with faster, slower, tighter ass.
Right.
And so then I was thinking, Chachi, man, he's from New York, I think. And I need a band. He used to have bandanas, tie him around his thigh.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm wearing now. That Bruce brought me. And so I went into one of the stores. There's a lot of bandana stores.
Yeah, a lot of bandana. It took me 2 seconds to get that. Literally 2 days ago.
Oh, you see Stamos here.
Yeah.
And so I got this bandana, and the guy was super sweet because you're in luck that, with every bandana you get a free massage today. I said, oh, thank you, sir. I'll come back. I'm busy. I'm got an audition for General
free massage,
right?
I mean, you gotta love it.
I loved it, and I found it all very flattering. So I walk in, and I was doing my walk to the audition. Marvin Page was the casting director. There's another guy named Skitch Hendricks, and I remember him because I don't know if anyone can confirm it out there. He had a fake hand, a rubber fake hand.
Oh, okay.
And and there was like cigarette, and he was kind of, kind of pricky. And I would start. He's like, stop moving around, something like I was doing my walk,
Right.
Just stand still and say the lines. Oh fuck, I wasted my time. Well, I got a bandana. And then I keep going, and then he goes, oh, stop. I go, what? He goes, you like to be peed on, huh? I'm like, what? Kid from Orange County. We don't know about that. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, you're wearing a yellow bandana. That means you like to be peed on. I go, Jesus, this Hollywood shit, man. I don't know if I can take it. And I walked out. I thought I thought I tanked the audition. I walked out in the bright sun. I was like, go ahead, Hollywood, piss on me. And I ended up getting the job.
You got the job.
Yeah.
What I found so interesting about, and I'm going to liken this to your upbringing with your mom and your dad, who obviously were super, it's a love story. It's a love story.
I think you met my mom at the Palm.
I think
in
so.
New York,
Yep. And I also think that the fact that your dad had you work in the kitchen, it teaches you something, okay? I think everyone should work in hospitality.
Yes.
So, like, here you are on the set of GH, and Miss Monty, Gloria Monty, you start talking about the people, the level of respect you have, like you were a young guy, and gratitude you have for being in that room.
Yes.
That I think comes from, obviously, from your parents and your working. I'm like working in the kitchen.
How old were you when you started?
I think my first summer job with them was 16, 17.
My dad treated the busboy with the same as he treated his best customer.
When you write that line, it resonated so deeply with me.
Yeah.
Because it's the one thing that if you are in hospitality and you do it right, that's...
Yeah, I've seen you at your place talking to the waiters or the busboys.
Yeah, but you do the same. I mean, obviously, you do the same.
Yeah, but we don't do it out of, it's our job.
No.
Like, I care about people, and so do you, right? And
yes.
so, unless they're an asshole, you're going to get my full attention.
Right.
And
right, exactly. So those 2 years, and then, I mean, look, you talked very candidly about, like, kind of what a douche Rick Springfield was at the time, who was, like, hitting it up.
Yeah.
He didn't clearly work in
right.
Hospitality business. Like, here you were, a young buck, like, being, like, impressed, and he was kind of...
I felt... I didn't want to put anybody down in the book because that's just not my thing, and I could have.
You're telling the story.
But I think with him, like everything in this book, here's the other thing I want to say is, like, as I start writing it, that's when I discovered my story. Like, I didn't know what my story was, and writing it down, and then and looking back at things like for instance at General Hospital, when the black storylines were a lot less than the white people storylines, and I remember these great actors, Todd Phillips, his name was, and they were always complaining, like, what are you guys complaining about? We're on TV. And
right.
You don't get it, Stamos,
Right,
and then Sammy Davis came in, and they had a big storyline, and then when he left, it wasn't. And I believe, I have to double check, I know I wrote in there that they would have to get their hair and makeup done somewhere else. And so I didn't understand. Right. I knew there was something wrong. I knew it wasn't right. But I didn't. So looking back, I go, that was segregation there.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a lot of those moments in the book that I discovered. But we were talking about.
It's interesting. So
restaurant.
when you sit down to write, are you like literally? Do you not know what you're about to write? Are you like, okay, or do you wake up in the middle of the night going, wait a minute? Are you taking notes saying, like, wait, I remember something? Because how do you? I couldn't remember. I feel like I can't remember my life.
Yeah, but did you?
It's a blur.
But if you sat down and you remember, here's the deal. My mom and then I subsequently took. So I had all boxes and boxes. My mom kept everything,
right.
Every contract, every calendar, every journal that I had, every note, every picture, every Tiger Beat magazine. It was, and so I was like, I have to, And I remember saying, like, Mom, let's get rid of this junk. Why do you have it? I was like, now I know. Right. And so that helped a lot. I mean, I'll have a memory about something like General Hospital, for instance. I used to always say, I auditioned on a Tuesday, and then I got a call back on Wednesday, and I worked on Thursday, and it aired 2 weeks later.
Right.
I went to the calendar. That's the exact dates.
Wow.
So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of, I think I did some journaling, but mostly I wrote stuff on my calendars.
Mm-hmm.
And I not only that, I wrote like, I would draw pictures of if I was happy or sad, or how my eyes were, how I was saying,
These are priceless things for you to have, and then also for you to pass on to your son. And
that's part of writing the book too for him. But I know those questions you're asking because I asked the same thing to my friends, like but the memories came back, and like I said, I had and I went and talked to a lot of people, and people remembered stuff. But you'd be surprised at what.
Oh, the people that you were working with on the show, like things like that. Yeah, you start to like sort of reminisce, and you bring it back, and you go, "Oh yeah."
I mean, one of the things about that came to me too then was like, I had this when I went from, and you probably had this too. I don't know what you were like as a kid. Probably handsome. I was not, and so that transition from being a caterpillar to a butterfly was really. I wanted to really focus on that.
Yeah, you did. I found that like really like you. I mean, you depict yourself so sort of like not as handsome as you are now, and kind of nerdy, but kind of not, and wanting the girls, and then like the boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
and then when it happens, it was such a trip. But I had a bully before it was even called bullying.
Right.
This guy gave me the black eye.
We had no words. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And did that happen? No, you probably the bully, weren't you? No.
I was bullied.
You were you?
Yeah, for gay. They could read gay. Kids could read gay on a gay.
And there was no
bad. There's no word.
Counselor. You can't go there, can you, right?
I learned how to hide.
Yeah,
That's
me too.
what
It was
you
scary,
learn.
huh?
That's the.
Is that when you started lifting weights? And
No. Much later. I was like, that was all vanity. That was to get the guys.
Yeah, me too. So this guy popped me. So it was one of the first times because I just wanted to be liked, and I wanted. Like, who doesn't, right?
Right.
Thank God there was no social media back then.
I know, God.
But you just wanted to be liked, and you wanted people to think you're cool and nice and everything. And they didn't, as far as could feel. I was goofy, and I did magic and puppets and stunts.
I love that. When you say you would have been, into puppets, that would have been your career.
Yeah, I would have.
Puppetry, right?
I still might. I mean, this, And so it was that, and there was a girl the hottest girl. She went to a Catholic school. And I heard from one of the guys in the marching band that she wanted to go out with me. She thought I was cute. But he said, don't tell anybody.
Right.
Right. I told everybody. And I was at this block party. And, of course, I was at the dorkier house party. And then at the end was the jocks. So the boyfriend of this girl who wanted to go out. So I tell everybody in a game of telephone. Went from house to house to house.
It's like, in the movie Grease, Rizzo's knocked up.
Yeah. That's how it was. And then he came and tried to knock me out. I wasn't even paying attention. I was sitting in a car. He sucker punched me. I wanted to dedicate the book to this guy because I don't know if we'd be here, right? I don't know if I'd be famous.
Right, you said that. I want to say thank you.
Oh man, I wanted to every goal I reached, like TV, Beach Boys, I thought of him. Like, I really show that so much. Yeah.
Do you know anything about him? Like where he is?
No, I had to change his name, but
of course.
I don't know if he'll read this book because I'm not sure if he could read. But I don't know. I think he's around. But I would, and then I talk about I would go back and look. A lot has happened. Water under the bridge, 40 years ago, whatever, or longer. But I would, like a phantom limb if you lose it. I'm always thinking I'd like to go to him and say, hey, thank you. I mean, you really pushed me to be who I am, and I always, maybe it was not the most positive, but I thought about you, and I wanted to really make it just to show you, and so thank you.
But I think that
then I'd say, but I dated that girl for 2 years, and she told me you had a tiny dick, so I'll see you later.
You said that.
Well,
you're Greek, so you must be, it's big.
Well,
is it big?
You're gonna have to ask others. We'll take the large pepper shaker, please. Could you bring that over? I need to show Bruce. Pepper mill. This big long. This is not good. These are too short.
This is that little schwaz dude.
Yeah, get that.
This is the guy that clocked you. Thanks for joining us on Table for Two. John Stamos is so youthful It's hard to believe that he's been in Hollywood for over 4 decades. When you start acting as a teenager, you have to learn the ropes as you go along. And I'm interested to know those early years on GH, General Hospital, how did that affect his career, his life, who he became? One of the things, when you were on GH with Sammy Davis Jr., you wanted to play drums. That's Elizabeth Taylor's in your sight line. You're like, who's that old lady? I mean, these are the things.
I forgot about that one.
That's like those are great nuggets of information. And you say you just loved going to work.
I loved it. Yeah, they had that. They're like, you have to go home, Mom. There was a John. Your mom called you. It's time to go home.
Right.
I would stay and watch.
Right.
Tony Geary was a big influence,
Yeah.
and it was sort of. He's in Amsterdam, but I got to write. I sent a book to him, and I wrote, how much he influenced me. These people don't realize that we're watching them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he knew, but he was so good, man. And I was like, why is he so good? And he would take these pauses, and for me, I thought I had to fill up every space. Like,
Right.
This guy, and he didn't lose any energy, but he would take a beat, like,
Right.
boom, and then come back. It was so
Right.
fucking powerful, man. His eyes, he was so intense, but always kind to me, and always, I've just have had these mentors over the years, as I write about Jack Klugman and Gary Marshall, Rickles, and I've always been sort of attracted to that older gentleman vibe, and like I would just want to learn everything I could from them.
Yeah, you were like soaking it all in, and I love that Sammy Davis, you wanted to play drums, and he did that.
Gloria wasn't really taking requests, and I wanted to play drums on the show. Can I play music? Can I play? No. Right. And Sammy Davis was on, and my dad said, I said, Dad, who's this guy on today? Sammy Jr. something. Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah. My dad really turned me on to the Rat Pack, So we would argue who was better, Sinatra or Elvis. I finally came around. I said, we both listened. He said, listen to Frank and all that. And then I said, "Oh, you're right, Dad, man. That Frank was cool. What'd you think of Elvis? Shitty. He was old school, right?
Right.
So he said, "Well, talk to Sammy Davis about playing drums. He's a drummer." Right. Standing next to him, Mr. Davis Jr. They won't let me play drums on it. But we had this. I remember again, like it all came back. We had this pretty cool conversation about music. And I think through that, at least verbally, he thought that I got it.
Okay.
So he says,
Hold on, man.
what? It's just right. And it goes off, and it hears a little heels click, click, click. And he goes to Gloria Monty and says something, and comes back out and says,
Just do what I say, man.
and I do impressions in case anyone out there. Tell your husband. He says, I said, what are you talking about? And I remember him being very firm. I swear to God, this memory comes so clear. He goes,
Just do what I say, man.
in the scene, he was going to ad libs. I introduced him because my character was MC or something, and he gets up and he talks a little bit about the charity. It was a fundraiser, but so there was a full band set up.
Right.
He was going to sing.
Right, for the
He said,
waterfront. I know.
Yeah, remember? Yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah. He says,
Blackie, you play drums, right?
I'm like, what? And I'm totally ad lib. I get up there. What are we going to play? A little jam. 1, 2, 3. And I could see him look at me like, all right, this he gets it.
Right.
We're speaking the same language. He's the sage.
Right.
And then he gave me this big hug at the end. And I heard later that it was playing on all the monitors and here at ABC and in New York, and everybody kind of gathered around. They started going closer to the monitors.
Right.
And they let us play for a long time, and then they cut us. And then I went to see Sammy at the Greek, and he was dying. He had cancer. It was terrible. And he comes into the backstage there. He's got a white cape.
Right.
See, again, like I remember this. David Hasselhoff was there or something. Right. And he goes over and asks the bartender for 2 orange crushes. He said,
The dope and the cigs I don't miss. The booze I miss.
we cheered, and then he passed it.
Yeah, your whole, you have a very kindred spirit when you talk about Sinatra, Elvis, Sammy Davis, Don Rickles, Klugman, when you were on Broadway with James Earl Jones. You really kind of, I think, your whole life, and I think maybe based on your relationship with your dad, who you had this like incredible relationship with and respected so much.
Yes.
Older, so you respected that. I also think it's interesting reading your book and hearing it from your perspective. So a guy's perspective, talking
Right,
about,
guys,
really being sexualized and being objectified. And, and just that experience, because I do think people forget that does happen.
Happened to men, yeah, right.
It happens. It happened to you.
I think it's like I think it's 7 out of every 25 girls by the time they're 18 have been sexually abused.
Yeah,
and it's like 1 out of every 25 boys, but that's not real because boys don't talk about it.
Right.
Those numbers are false. So I
Right.
just talk about it very briefly in the book because I certainly don't want it to be about that. But I also felt like a charlatan if I didn't, because I've done, for 35 years I've been advocating for the abused
Right.
children and trying to get that.
Right.
But
Amazing.
so I felt like a phony if I did. It's the right time to I just graze it. It's a page, and I don't know how it affected me. I don't, again, looking back at all this stuff, I'm not sure, but it's always been, most of those growing up, most of those sexual experiences have been with women that are a little more sophisticated, and I'm not a victim. Nobody,
Yeah, no.
feeling, but the babysitter thing was like, it felt good maybe, but we
yes.
shouldn't have those
Well,
feelings.
that's what's sort of confusing, because
Right.
when someone is doing something that's like
Right.
inappropriate, but yet it's gentle or it feels good, you're
Right.
confused. No matter
Yes. Yeah.
and the work that you've done is, so I think for so long now with kids.
Yeah.
So I think it was really just beautiful.
And I think
It's,
it was
again,
it was that, like, why have I been so interested in helping children through a lot of different causes, but certainly the abused children. And one of the reasons I couldn't put it in the book because it didn't make sense, but maybe I could have. But we have an 800 number, 1-800-4A-CHILD, and if you're any of this kind of thing, and it's not like some weirdo with a trench coat on it takes you
No.
in the back of a van. It's a priest, it's a neighbor, it's an uncle, and so that's what I want to talk about. But 1-800-4A-CHILD, and the other thing is, during the pandemic especially, it was on the rise because everybody's stuck at home, people don't have jobs, drinking, confined, and it's also, this hotline is also good for parents. If you're a little frustrated and you maybe want to hurt your kid or you can't control your anger, call that number and we talk you through that as well. At the end of the book, I talk about like that idea. If you would have told me, but I don't know how I stumble.
it's a beautiful time.
It's and they said, "What do you want to call it?" I said, if you would have told me that, yes. Mike Love was calling me one day years ago. Mike Love was the lead singer of the Beach Boys. It was the first concert I went to, and he was calling. Someone was over, and I didn't answer it. I said, if you would have told me when I was a kid at my first concert that Mike Love was calling, and I didn't pick it up, that's where it came from.
Right.
But and it also is, you could use it as, if you would have told me that one of my best friends would die, in the middle. So the point is that if you would have told me these things and then you avoid them, okay, so I didn't. There's probably jobs that I should have taken that I lost, or that was offered to me, or just all the things. And before writing this book, I would say, you'd say, "Do you have any regrets?" I'd say, "Yeah, I regret this, I regret that." Writing the book and realizing that everything happened for a reason, like you said, and one thing led to another, and the divorce and the heartbreak taught me what I really wanted in love, and prepared me for when Caitlin came around. And then I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah. I also think you wrote this book at a perfect moment in your life, because I actually think your 50s are a time of great reflection. And like you said, so the door was shutting and you got under it, and now you're going through the arch of the next chapter of your life, which is just so rich with love and family and like
gratitude.
Exactly.
Gratitude.
This is you do have this, the body of work that you have. Here you are, a kid from Cypress, California, and you're like having this epic career. Welcome back to Table for Two. You most likely know John from his time on a both wildly successful soap opera and a primetime sitcom, but he's also acted on stage. What was it like to make that transition? Let's swing it over to you talk about when you were on Broadway, and yes, I think that's one of the times we first met. But you were the MC in Cabaret. You replaced Matthew Broderick when he went away to do a movie on How to Succeed.
Yeah, where did I get those balls? Like, I never.
Like, this is major shit.
I wasn't a theater. Like, I didn't grow up. I auditioned in the high school for the Wizard of Oz to play the Scarecrow. I got about one. While away, stop. Do you do makeup? Can you do makeup in the show? Don't sing. That's where I was. And so, Jack Klugman was always in my ear. Gotta do theater. Gotta do. And when Full House ended, I was like, oh, Jack, what do I do? Man, I played this idiot for 8 years. Everybody thinks I'm a fucking dopey, guitar wielding Elvis looking. I said, get to the theater. Look, I never did it before.
Right.
I can't sing. Doesn't matter. He was in Gypsy, with Ethel Merman. So I can't sing. I said, really? Good.
Right.
Don't practice. But so I just went for it. And in my mind then, and I tried. Look, I was fearless, right? You remember those? Do you have a fearlessness in your life?
Yeah.
And I've been trying to get back to that ever since. But I would just think like, well, if I practiced dancing, I wasn't going to dance with it. If I sang enough, if I really worked on something 15 hours a day, I could do it. Mm-hmm. And I did.
Right. Well, because you have that thing that you can't get, which is charisma.
Well,
and the light from the audience. Like, people are drawn to you. So like
they are.
So yeah,
like a moth.
Yeah,
or like a
a moth. Oh, there's a sound like a moth to a butterfly. But and so I think when clearly you loved it. Like, it was something that you. What was the high like on being in front of a live audience all of a sudden? Like, that kind of, like, 8 shows a week. Yeah. I know you had your rituals. I mean, you've left. I think it was a great time, as Klugman said, to like get out of L.A.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Get out of this zone.
Right.
Life was changing.
Stay in Trump Tower. That's where I was staying.
I mean,
I forgot. I don't think I put it in there, but Tony Bennett lived there too, and he was like one floor above me. I think.
Right.
Hi, Mr. Bennett. Want to go to the show? I'll get you tickets. I'll get you half-price tickets to see me in house. Like, okay, great. I'm getting off. It's hard to rely. It took me. Yeah. You know a lot. You know this business. Like, I say, like, some people get it right away. DiCaprio, out of the gate, was a brilliant actor, right? Jennifer Lawrence, people like that. Right. Me, and there's others. It takes 25, 30 years, and I think I'm in that category.
Right.
Like, just the last maybe 8, 10 years ago.
Right. Right.
Yeah, stop trying so hard, Stamos.
Right.
I remember when Jason Bateman, we kind of grew up together. When he was really hitting it, I said, "Let's go to lunch, man." What happened? Because and there was a long time. Still, I mean, I'm not. You say, "Oh, you've had quite a career." Yeah, I've been in the lower part of the middle, but I think I'm still around. That's maybe the impressive thing. But I asked him how, and he said he just stopped trying so hard. Just let go, relaxed. And he literally couldn't get arrested. Then he gets arrested, and he just lets.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to do.
So do you feel
trust
like,
you, because it's trusting yourself? Yeah. We don't think we're that.
Do you feel like that's part of the next chapter of your life? That now that you are, things have settled around you. Mm-hmm. You're in this, are you now able to? Do you foresee letting go? And if so, what are the things that you'd like to do in this next piece?
Well, I think I have let go a lot. Holding on to everything is so important. By the way, like, there's no one job anymore really that makes or breaks you, and the ones that you think are that you don't get, that's gonna be the hit show. It isn't, and the little ones. Like, I remember I was at a couple of meetings with Greg Berlanti, and he said, "Hey, will you do me a favor?" I'm like, "Yeah, anything." He said, "You do a few episodes of this show I got going on. It's called You." Like, it was on Lifetime.
Yeah, I loved.
I said, "Great." The show tanks on Lifetime, and Netflix buys it, and it's their #1 show, and all of a sudden, boom! Like, I never thought that was going to be.
Right.
So it is about letting go. Do I feel the only career-wise, I really have let it go. I don't care. I mean, I don't really care anymore. I try to find projects I like, or I put stuff together. But I am waiting for my Breaking Bad. I hope that comes around at some point.
I've had such a nice time with John today. He is so smart and honest and open about his life and journey. I would be remiss if I didn't ask him about his dear friend and Full House co-star Bob Saget, who passed suddenly last year. How do you memorialize someone who's had such an impact on your life? you've talked about Bob a couple times, and you've talked about him at length, and the brotherhood and the love, and as you end this book, and as we sort of are getting close to the end of our lunch,
We are.
you really talk about that last dinner you had with your wives at Nobu, and it's really beautiful, and you say you just never know, and I guess the question I'm asking about Bob, because he's missed by so many, and he really was great. I guess, every day you must honor him somehow. And
Life is not as funny or fun, for sure. But you got to get over that. But a little piece of you is gone, right?
Yeah.
Have you lost anybody close to
you? Yeah.
And you just go. But did you see the movie Coco? Disney movie?
Yes, yeah.
What they said, and they were so beautiful, which was a person dies, okay. And then if you don't talk about them, if you don't tell stories about them, if you don't put their pictures up, they die again for good up there.
Right.
So that's one of the things where I certainly try to talk about him as much as I can. And I'm sure if we're real quiet, we can hear him complaining that I don't talk about him enough. You knew Bob, right? Very well.
Yes.
He was the greatest. He was the most, he was the biggest insecure egomaniac ever. He had both sides. But that night we were at Nobu. Sorry we didn't go to the Palm, but but Bob and I did go to the Palm a lot.
All the time, you guys.
And again, I was going to meet
especially
him.
the West Hollywood,
And he had a drawing right there.
Yeah. I wonder where it is.
You want to know the truth about? So Bruce sent out a thing. We're moving, and you said come pick up the things.
Right.
And you know why I didn't? I was too drunk to drive that day.
Really?
Terrible. Yeah. I thought I better not drive. Oh fuck it, I don't need.
That's interesting.
And it was a shitty, boozy time. I was like, fuck it, what do I want that for?
Really? I wondered why.
Remember, I was probably one of the only people that
I
know
wondered
Rickles
why.
came by and got his.
I was like, oh, okay, he just doesn't want it, but that's okay. I want it, and it's you, my friend. So I didn't take it personally. It wasn't insulting.
Yeah, I was fucked up.
I was like, great, and we put it.
But that's the thing about anyway. That's why I never picked it up. But I'm sober now, getting it. In the beginning of the book, I talk about going to the Palm to meet Bob and what the Palm meant to me. It was everybody knew my name there. It was a place that you guys. But I say that because there's a lot of Sinatra stuff I talk about, and I talk about the characters over there and the new place. There was you put me right next to Sinatra too, and I remember seeing that. Going, wow! And then Andy Cohen and maybe one or two.
Right.
It's like, how did I make it over here? You just didn't want that in your house.
Yeah.
Me staring at you. It's like the
I
haunted
did.
mansion. Do you ever the eyes follow you around no matter where you sit in the fucking place?
Well, all I could say is, everybody, your book comes out on October 24th. This will probably, you would have heard this, or the book will be out, and it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's also a beautiful book to listen to, because to hear you read it so
That was so
elegantly.
hard. They said, well, what takes? I said, how long? They have 4 or 5 sessions, you'll get it. It took me 30.
Wow.
Because I cared I just kept going over and over, and I could change stuff. And I also hope that it's a book that if you're not a fan of mine or whatever, it's just a good...
100%.
Okay, good.
It is. It's a book about love. It's a book about family.
Yeah.
I also want to close with, you share, and you've talked about your mom leaving notes.
Yes.
I think that's so beautiful and insightful of your mother, because that is a great gift to have.
Have you done it to you? You're
Not
okay.
Brian has done that,
Okay.
and I am not
Go.
as.
You know what I'm doing with Billy is I've set up an email account for him, and he does, he can't get
Right.
to it obviously, and I just write him emails
That's
once,
a good idea.
and it's
Yeah.
easier because I can just talk to him. The other
Right.
night, going to bed, and Caitlin was out of town, so it was me, and they have this special prayer together that they say, and it's so good. He kind of cobbled through it. It was really beautiful. And then, as he fell asleep in my arms, I wrote. But I talked into my phone and to an email, and I said to him how beautiful. Then in the morning we woke up, and his face is right next to my little nose. He goes, "Dad," I go, "Yeah." He goes, "You smell like my bathroom at my school." Breath. Thank you, little shit.
You gotta love it. And on that
I love you,
note,
Bruce, and I
love
appreciate you doing
John.
this. And I
Thank
think
you.
this conversation, it was really nice to have with you, and I appreciate you taking the time to read the book. That means a lot.
Yeah,
it's just
no.
weird having a book.
I bet.
Man. Oh my God, what am I?
I know, but you know what? This is a gift for people, because it is a story of not just your celebrity and your career. It's a story of friendship, love, finding yourself, sobriety, saving yourself.
Yeah.
It's a great memoir, John
Thank
Stamos.
you very much,
Thank
Bruce
you
Bozzi.
so much for being here.
I don't have to pay, do I?
You don't. I
No,
pay.
we don't have to split it or anything.
No,
I can
not
just-
Dutch, baby. You're
Tip?
my
Should I put a
date.
tip or
No,
not?
you don't. Anyway, thanks
I
for
love you,
showing
Bruce. I
up,
love you. I
everyone, on
love you.
Table for
Thank
Two.
you.
I love you.
Table for two.
Table for Two with Bruce Bozzi is produced by iHeartRadio, 737 Park, and Airmail. Our executive producers are Bruce Bozzi and Nathan King. Table for Two is researched and written by Bridget Arsenault. Our sound engineers are Paul Bowman and Alyssa Midgaff. Table for Two's LA production team is Danielle Romo and Lorraine Virez. Our music supervisor is Randall Poster. Our talent booking is by Jane Sarkin. Special thanks to Amy Sugarman, Uni Scher, Kevin Uvain, Bobby Bauer, Allison Cantor-Graber, Barbara and Jen and Jeff Klein and the staff at the Tower Bar in the world-famous Sunset Tower Hotel. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.